now and then you stumble into a horror movie that just makes you want to say, what the fuck? Say what you want about Full Moon Features, their schlocky B-rated horror movie vibes are often critiqued and never appreciated. And though they're known for Puppet Master and many other franchises, I just accidentally stumbled into a movie tonight that kind of baffled me quite a bit. So let's talk about Head of the Family. What up, y'all? Welcome back to Phantom of the Indie Review. I am your host, Big Head Ratty. We are on the cusp of 4,000 subscribers by Halloween. And yes, there's been a weird kick that I've been reviewing horror comedies more so than frightful stuff. But as October unfolds, it's going to get scarier and scarier here. So if you haven't followed me, come hang out. And let's rob.
And let's go to a supernatural family's house and steal every single penny that they own.
I know a horror company that would blow Blumhouse and A24 out of the water. That is right, Full Moon Features, brought to us by legendary master Charles Band.
See, Band is what did you spoke about?
Before Full Moon, Band had another production company called Empire Pictures, which was an independent small-scale theatrical distribution company that made films such as The Alchemist, The Dungeon Master, and many more that clearly I have no idea what they are. I'm not that much of a movie nerd. And when this idea collapsed, he did not give up. He came back to America from Rome and started another production company, Full Moon Features. Band's goal with Full Moon was to create low-budget horror, sci-fi, and fantasy films while retaining somewhat of a big-budget look. Come on, son. And they became kind of pioneers, icons, if you will, of the direct-to-video aspect, catering to the likes of Blockbuster or mom and pop movie rental shops. You guys ever go to Blockbuster when you were a kid, or rental stores? You know, your sister's grabbing Mary Poppins, your brother's grabbing a copy of The Goonies, and you creep down the dark, creepy aisle. Not the porn section. And you look at all the creepy horror movie cases they had. It gives me chills just thinking about it. I miss those stores dearly. In 1989, their first movie release happened to be probably their most successful one, which was Puppet Master. We all know and love Puppet Master. That essentially became the umbrella, the face of the franchise for Full Moon Features. And though they have some good movies in between, that became their staple, essentially. And as we know, Puppet Master turned out to be a huge hit. And they've had success with other movies such as the Evil Bong franchise, or Castle Freak, which is something I really want to review, so if you're interested in that, comment down below. But the one movie I stumbled upon that I really want to talk about right now is 1996.
House of the Family.
Head of the Family. In a little redneck town, Lance is the owner of this convenience store, and he is having an affair with a lady named Loretta, who is dating the biggest, meanest, nastiest biker in town, Howard. Howard's not the brightest bulb on the tree, and pretty much, I mean, don't feel bad for the guy. He's gawking at other women all the time, saying how he wishes he could sleep with this girl or that girl, so he kind of had it coming. Lance and Loretta are sneaking around, and that is pretty much the setup of the main characters. On the outskirts of town, there is this family, the Stackpools, and we get introduced to some of the characters. A big, tall, gawking dude named Oddest, looks like He-Man with that little bowl cut thing. This Amazonian woman named Ernesta, and this dweeby looking creepy dude wearing sunglasses. Lance owns a convenience store, and though he's not the best looking man, what he lacks for in looks is his charm, his business skills, and clearly his demeanor, because, you know, he pulled Loretta, who's a very sweet lady, despite cheating on her man. So the Stackpools, they come into the place and get their groceries, and right away we find out that they're labeled as outcasts. Everyone's like, oh, stay away from them, they're freaks. And even though they're all oddballs and eccentric, they are the most wealthiest people in town because they came into a bunch of money from oil. This movie unfolds heavily, to me, kind of like a Tales from the Crypt episode. It's very like an allegory almost, if that's a word, where there's like the bad morals behind people result in them getting punished more. It like starts with, you know, all this chaotic small town dramas, skeletons in closets, and all the people that make bad decisions get exactly what they deserve, essentially. It has that very 90s aesthetic to it. Looks like a made-for-TV movie. Looks like you would see it on Sci-Fi in the middle of the night. You know, one night you're really sick and you gotta go to school the next morning, but you sneak into the living room, turn on the TV, and put on the Sci-Fi channel. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. If I was a kid, I probably would have really liked this movie more. Driving back from one of their nightly flings, Lance witnesses the local family of weirdos, the Stackpools, dragging a man from his truck and into their house. Seeing this as an opportunity, Lance discovers the Stackpools' terrible secret. They get done doing a little quickie. They run into this crazy scene, and Lance, being the smart businessman he is, instead of calling the cops and, you know, doing the right thing, he goes to confront the Stackpools. He's like, how can I get money out of this? You know, my business is tanking. What can I do? He goes into the house where he is ambushed and he is introduced to the titular character, no pun intended, the head of the family, Myron, who is pretty much this giant head with little tiny hands, big brain, strapped to a wheelchair, very cliche, very B-movie, very scientific, very sci-fi-esque. And Myron is the brains of the operation, and he admits to Lance, he's like, hey, we are quadruplets that are so deeply connected and rooted to each other that we can feel each other's feelings. Myron can pretty much control them, talk to them through wavelengths. Otis, the big guy, has ultimate strength. The other brother who has glasses, he takes off his glasses and has these big bulging creepy eyes, and apparently he has heightened senses where he can see, hear, feel things very intensely. And Ernesta, the big Amazon woman, has a massive sex appeal to her. It's funny because Myron kept saying, I need not explain to you Ernesta's powers, and the whole time I was like, what are her powers? Turns out, like, she can just control any man she wants. But Lance isn't having it. He pretty much has a battle of wits with Myron, and he's like, you're gonna pay me every week or I'm gonna go to the cops and say you killed this dude. The reason that Myron is killing off these people is because he's a little tiny man, a little Humpty Dumpty looking dude, so he's trying to find the perfect specimen through townsfolks to put his brain into their body. So every time people do these weird things or, you know, trespass, he takes them and puts them in his little dungeon in the basement, which I really like. The dungeon in the basement, it's very cool, very House of a Thousand Corpses vibe, kind of. I don't know, this movie kind of reminds me of House of a Thousand Corpses meets Nothing But Trouble with a little hint of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like that weird, creepy, rednecky family dynamic. It's very interesting. But yeah, as Lance blackmails them, he goes off and him and Loretta keep continuing their fling, falling in love more. But Myron's like, he's gonna slip up eventually, so he pretty much has the rest of his family become informants for him, standing outside of his house waiting for him to slip up. They travel across the state to kill his lawyer. They do some malicious shit because even though they're rich and wealthy, it's more of a battle of the wits. With Myron, he doesn't like being taken advantage of mentally. He doesn't care about the money, but the fact that he thinks Lance is getting one up on him really frustrates him. And I really think this movie has a great script to it. Like, I really like the character Lance and Myron, and they're back and forth, and they're one-upping each other constantly. I feel like it was a very interesting story. I feel like, again, it reminded me of a Tales from the Crypt episode where it had this moralizing story tied together, but with a supernatural, creepy aspect to it. And that's oftentimes what we saw in the 90s. Great movie plots, but they just insert something creepy into it to make it a horror movie. But as the movie unfolds, they keep battling back and forth. They finally kidnap Lance and Loretta, bring them back to the dungeon where they have to have this big standoff to see who's right or wrong and who wins. And I know I've been spoiling movies a lot lately fully, but this time around I don't want to spoil it because I really feel like you guys should watch this movie. What do I think about it all in all? The design of Myron is really cool. Like, even the fact that he has a big giant head, it doesn't look like a puppet. I think there's a real dude's face in there. I think it's actual practical effects, and it looks pretty good. The house and the aesthetic of the movie looks good, clean, crisp. I just love atmospheric 90s movies. I don't care what the genre is. I just love the look of 90s movies. But like I said, the basement's creepy. The house that they filmed in has a cool vibe to it. I really liked Lance a lot. Even though he was technically the protagonist, he had antagonistic vibes. You know, he was doing shady shit also, but you're still kind of rooting for him. Myron, you kind of felt for too, because he had that poor, lonesome soul vibe where he's so smart and confined to a wheelchair that maybe he's evil and wants to take over the world because he's lonely. You ever think of that? The movie is kind of slow paced, but I really like the storytelling and the writing of it. This movie's not going to be for everyone, and having a giant picture of a Humpty Dumpty looking dude on the cover, I expected more stuff to be more wild and unhinged, like if they had some more brutal kills or if they had some just crazier interactions. Like, there's one scene at the end where they could have pushed the envelope way too drastically and made it an iconic, terrifying scene, but they dialed it back. But all in all, it's a pretty good movie, and I highly suggest you check it out if you just want to have a good time with friends. Alright guys, that's the video. Subscribe, give me a thumb up, hit that ding-a-ling button harassing you, telling you, hey, it's me, I'm here, and I'm gonna say it one time for the one time and two time for the O's. Give me a hell yeah, horror.
Holy shit, them some big eyes, brother.